I'm Andrew Fraknoi, and I'm sorry to report that Dennis Schatz has had a family medical emergency. And so I'm actually going to be presenting both his slides and my slides in sort of one session. As you may know, some of you, I've been with the Eclipse Task Force since the 2017 eclipse. I'm a retired astronomer and college professor. I write textbooks, children's books, and even in my retirement, science fiction stories, including one I'm trying to get published about eclipses. But that's another story for another time. So I'm here to talk a little bit about eclipse outreach and eclipse education. We can't do justice to either of those topics in 8 minutes each, but we'll try to highlight some of the things that Dennis and I are doing, and also some of the projects that other people are involved with as well. The next slide. So this is, okay. So this is the crucial piece of information that motivates and scares the heck out of us. If you ask not just who's going to see the wonderful total eclipse, but who's going to see any kind of eclipse in the next school year, we're talking about 500 million people. And the next slide shows you a typical educator realizing these numbers and contemplating what they mean. Now, appropriately there in San Antonio, you guys are focusing on the wonders and glory of the total eclipse that's coming, and that's great. But you have to remember that most people in the North American continent will see a partial eclipse. And it's up to us as educators to make sure that they don't feel left out and that they don't feel like second-class citizens. Even if in your heart you believe that the only true religious experience is the total eclipse, we have to make sure that everyone feels included. The next slide shows you how we've been thinking about this since the 2017 eclipse. We realized before that eclipse that if we're going to try to distribute information to a lot of people, many communities already have an information distribution center built in, which is their public library. And so we, in anticipation of 2017, approached the Gordon and Betty Moore Foundation, and they very kindly worked with us to try to distribute several million eclipse classes and information packets through several thousand public libraries. And that worked so well that for the upcoming 2 eclipses, we've asked them to do even better. And the next slide shows you what's happening. The Moore Foundation, working with the Space Science Institute in Boulder, Colorado, as the responsible agency, funded 5 million eclipse classes. And the National Science Foundation was so impressed, they kicked in enough money for an extra 1 million. So we are now having 6 million classes and information distributed free through more than 13,000 public libraries nationwide. And we're extremely gratified by the response we've received. Almost 5 million classes are now in the libraries, and the 13,000 includes libraries and library branches all over the United States. The next slide shows you the booklet that Dennis and I have put together for the libraries, which includes take-home sheets that they can send in both English and Spanish. And if you are working with outreach and would like to have a copy of this, which is really an introduction to how to do public outreach and especially how to do safe observing when the glasses run out, the short URL is bit.ly/eclipses for libraries. This is really free to everyone and available for you to use, for you to copy. There are no copyright issues at all. The next slide. In addition, this grant also provides workshops and lendable kits of solar telescopes and activities about the sun to all the state library systems and all the territorial library systems in the United States. The folks at the Space Science Institute have already done 48 workshops in person, most of them for 1,300 librarians. And the nice thing about these kits is that they will stay with the library systems long after memories of the eclipses themselves fade. Next slide. Now, 13,000 libraries with librarians, most of whom do not have a science background. We clearly need help. And a lot of our effort has been, and many of you have participated, including Angela, who's our star pupil. We need help from others who can assist and support the libraries. The next slide shows you some of what's going on. We're training several hundred Eclipse experts to help libraries in their community and in other communities, especially small rural communities that don't have an astronomer nearby. These experts include professional astronomers, science educators, amateur astronomers, park rangers, everyone who knows enough about eclipses to assist the local library. And we still have room for many other eclipse experts before April, so don't hesitate to sign up. The next slide shows you some of what's going on. Those experts who have students, we've encouraged them to have their students become secret agents for eclipses and provide information for their schools and their communities through social media, which the students often know a lot better than we older folks. And we'll see that several schools have set up special eclipse websites, and several of the experts have enlisted a small army of such social media helpers. The next slide highlights that we're not alone in getting experts to help. The Astronomical Society of the Pacific has received a NASA grant to train 500 Eclipse ambassador pairs. That is, they want to partner undergraduates with amateur astronomers and to train them to work in libraries and in other community groups to do community outreach. And so many of these pairs have already been trained, but they're hoping to train even more for the April eclipse. So if you know an undergraduate this time around who's especially good at outreach and who's open to learning more about eclipses and working with an amateur astronomer, please contact the Astronomical Society of the Pacific. The next slide. They also have a new program just funded by NSF, which they call the Eclipse Stars program, where they're going to try to supplement our group of science teachers and astronomers to go out to libraries and other community groups. And they will provide glasses for these eclipse stars. They will provide training for them, virtual training. So again, if you have colleagues who are interested in helping, they can contact the Astronomical Society of the Pacific. The next slide reminds us that there are already a group of early career astronomers called Astronomy Ambassadors of the American Astronomical Society. We've trained roughly 300 early career astronomers over the last 10 years to do outreach. There is a roster of them available through the AAS website. And if you need someone, or if you know a community group that needs someone to help, one place to find astronomers ready to do outreach is the Astronomy Ambassadors webpage. The next slide reminds us that NASA is very active in this field. I don't have time, that could be a whole other talk, to tell you about all the exciting things that the NASA HEAT program, HEAT program, and other branches of NASA education and outreach are doing. But one place that's already getting quite involved in our project is the NASA Solar System Ambassadors. They've trained over 1,000 people, most of them educators, amateur astronomers, to be outreach folks, and they've gotten very involved with the eclipse outreach and with local libraries. Next slide. While 6 million is a lot of safe viewing glasses, it's a drop in the bucket compared to the number of people who will see at least a partial eclipse. So we'll need to teach others safe ways to show the sun. And particularly during the annular eclipse and the partial phases of the other eclipse, it will be really important that everybody know how to protect themselves.